The sun was slowly fading behind the rocky hills of planet Vereen 9, casting long shadows across the silent battlefield. Captain Ryan Hale adjusted the grip on his rifle as he walked through the smoke-filled remains of what had once been an alien outpost. His boots crunched against burned soil, and the smell of melted metal and dust filled the air. The mission was supposed to be simple: recover evidence of alien technology and return to base. But as always, things on New Worlds rarely went as planned. Ryan had fought in many battles, but what happened that evening would stay with him forever. His team had moved cautiously between the broken walls, scanning for any life signs. The air was heavy with silence until a faint sound caught his attention, a weak, almost human-like groan coming from a pile of rubble. He raised his hand, signaling the others to stay alert. Slowly, he stepped closer, weapon ready. There, half buried under debris, was something or someone still alive. The shape was humanoid, but not human. A shimmer of cracked silver armor glinted under the dim light, and faint blue blood leaked onto the dark soil. Ryan's heart tightened. This wasn't a creature of war anymore. It was a survivor. He aimed his weapon carefully. The alien stirred, trying to move, and when she looked up, their eyes met for the first time. Her face was strangely beautiful in a way that wasn't human. Sharp features, faint markings glowing along her skin, and eyes the color of clear ocean water. She stared at him with both fear and defiance. Ryan hesitated. She was injured, weak, and clearly alone. But she was also one of them, the same species that had attacked Earth's colonies months ago. His training told him to finish the job to ensure no survivors could report back. He raised his weapon slightly higher, his finger hovering near the trigger. Then something unexpected happened. The alien pushed herself up on shaking arms and suddenly dropped to her knees. Her armor cracked further as she knelt before him. She lowered her head, trembling but proud, her breathing fast and uneven. For a moment, Ryan froze. This wasn't how enemies acted. He could see pain in her movements, exhaustion in her eyes, and then, in a broken but desperate voice, she spoke. The translator on his helmet barely caught the words. "Don't kill me, human," she said, her voice trembling. Then, with a pause, she added softly, "I'll warm your bed." Ryan blinked, stunned. His soldiers behind him exchanged confused looks. One of them whispered, "What did she just say?" Ryan didn't answer. He could tell from her tone and expression that she wasn't mocking him or making an offer. She was pleading. But the words sounded strange, almost misplaced, like they didn't carry the meaning she intended. It was as if she had learned those words without fully understanding them. For a long moment, neither of them moved. The wind howled quietly through the ruins. Ryan lowered his weapon just slightly, studying her face. Her lips were trembling, but her eyes stayed fixed on him, filled with both fear and strange courage. "Who are you?" he asked quietly, his voice rough. She didn't reply. She pressed her hand against her chest, perhaps as a sign of surrender. Then she whispered something else in her own language, words that the translator couldn't catch. Her body swayed, too weak to stay upright. Ryan's instincts argued inside his head. One voice told him to leave her, she was an enemy. The other, quieter but stronger, reminded him that she was alive just like him. Maybe frightened, maybe desperate. He sighed heavily and slung his rifle over his shoulder. "She's coming with us," he said finally. His squad was shocked. "Sir, are you serious?" one of them protested. "She could be dangerous." "She's injured," Ryan replied firmly. "And alone. If she wanted to attack, she would have done it already. We're taking her in." Reluctantly, they helped him lift the alien onto a transport carrier. She winced in pain but didn't resist. Ryan noticed her strange markings dimming as she lost strength. It was like watching starlight fade. He didn't understand why he felt responsible for her, but something about that moment, the pleading eyes, the broken words, stayed with him. The ride back to camp was silent. The alien lay unconscious on a stretcher, her breathing shallow but steady. The soldiers kept their distance, whispering among themselves. Ryan sat nearby, staring at the stars outside the window. He wondered what kind of world she came from, what kind of life she had before all this. When they reached the camp, the medics were hesitant to treat her. No one wanted to touch an alien, especially one wearing battle armor, so Ryan removed it himself, carefully unlocking the broken plates. Underneath, he saw faint scars, proof that she had been through more battles than any of them. Despite everything, she looked peaceful now, resting. Later that night, when the others had gone to sleep, Ryan checked on her again. Her translator device lay on the table beside her bed. He picked it up and replayed the moment she had spoken. The words echoed through the device, "Don't kill me, human. I'll warm your bed." Ryan frowned. He felt there was something off. Maybe the translator got it wrong. Maybe warm your bed meant something else in her language, something about safety or loyalty or peace. He couldn't be sure. But somehow he didn't feel mocked or insulted. He felt trusted. He turned to look at her sleeping form. She wasn't an enemy anymore, not to him. She was a being who had lost everything, now lying helpless in a world she didn't understand. Ryan didn't know what would happen next, but one thing was clear. Killing her would have been a mistake. Outside, the stars glimmered faintly, and the wind blew through the tents, carrying the scent of rain and burnt soil. Ryan sat by her side for a long while, feeling something he hadn't felt since the war began, a quiet sense of hope. He didn't know her name. He didn't know her purpose, but that night when he looked at her peaceful face, he knew one thing for sure. This meeting was not by chance. It was the beginning of something he couldn't explain yet, a fragile connection between two worlds that were never meant to meet. And deep inside, Ryan felt that saving her life might just change his own. Morning came slowly, its pale light creeping through the edges of the tent. Ryan hadn't slept much. His thoughts kept returning to the alien woman resting quietly on the bed beside him. The medical team had done their best to heal her wounds, though her body was unlike anything they had treated before. Her skin shimmered faintly, almost like soft glass, and faint blue veins pulsed with light beneath it. She seemed peaceful now, breathing gently, as if finally free from pain. When she woke up, her eyes darted around in confusion. She tried to sit up, but winced from the pain in her ribs. Ryan raised his hand calmly. "Easy," he said softly. "You're safe here." She stared at him, uncertain. Her translator device blinked weakly at her ear. "Safe here?" she repeated in a shaky voice. "Yes," Ryan nodded. "You're not my prisoner. You're under protection." She didn't seem to fully understand, but his tone made her relax a little. Slowly, she looked around the tent, then back at him. "Human captain?" she asked, struggling with the words. Ryan smiled faintly. "That's right. Captain Ryan Hale." She blinked once, then touched her chest with trembling fingers. "Sirata," she said. "My name." Ryan repeated it quietly. "Sirata." It sounded soft and musical, almost like a sigh. For the next few days, the camp was filled with tension. Some soldiers avoided even going near her, while others whispered among themselves, wondering why she was being kept alive. Ryan ignored the noise. He focused on helping her recover. Every day he brought her food and water, sitting quietly nearby as she tried to eat. She seemed curious about everything: how humans cooked, the texture of bread, the sound of laughter in the distance. Sometimes she would point at objects and ask, "What is this?" And Ryan would explain patiently. Their conversations were simple and broken, but meaningful. She learned slowly, repeating words like fire, sky, friend, and safe. And sometimes she would teach him words from her own language, short phrases filled with strange rhythms and gentle sounds. One evening, as the orange sunset painted the camp in warm colors, Ryan found Sirata sitting quietly outside the tent. Her eyes were fixed on the horizon, watching the twin moons rise over the mountains. He sat beside her. "You should rest," he said. "Your wounds are still healing." She turned her head slightly. "No need. I like this." She looked up at the moons again. "Your sky. Kind." Ryan smiled at her choice of words. "Kind?" She nodded. "My world. Dark now, no sky. Only fire." He felt a lump in his throat. It was the first time she had spoken about her home. He wanted to ask more, but he could see the sadness in her eyes. So he simply said, "Then maybe this place can be your sky for a while." Her lips curved faintly into something close to a smile. Maybe. The next few days passed quietly. Sirata began to walk again, slowly. Still weak but determined. She started helping around the camp, carrying supplies, cleaning tools, and observing everything with deep curiosity. The soldiers watched her cautiously at first, but soon they saw that she meant no harm. When a storm hit the outpost one night, knocking down part of a communication tower, she even helped repair it, using her strange glowing tools. "She's not what I expected," one soldier whispered to Ryan afterward. "She actually helped us," Ryan only nodded. He already knew. That night, as the rain fell softly outside, the power in the camp went out. The heaters stopped working and the temperature dropped quickly. Ryan was checking the backup generator when he heard a soft sound from her tent, a low, painful shiver. He walked in to find Sirata curled up, her body trembling. Her skin had lost its faint glow, turning pale and dim. "Sirata," he said, worried. "What's wrong?" She looked up weakly. "Cold," she whispered. "Too cold?" Ryan quickly grabbed his own blanket and wrapped it around her. But she kept shaking. It seemed her body wasn't made for the planet's chill nights. Without thinking twice, Ryan sat down beside her and held her shoulders gently, trying to share some warmth. Her breathing slowed, her trembling eased, and after a while she looked at him, her expression soft and peaceful, warm. "Human heart," she murmured, half asleep. The words hit Ryan deeply. For the first time, he saw no difference between them. No war, no species, no enemy. Just two souls surviving in a cold world together. The next morning, the power returned. Sirata was better, her strength slowly coming back. She greeted him with a small bow and a quiet, "Thank you." From that day on, something changed between them. She was no longer the silent captive he had rescued from the ruins. She laughed sometimes, softly like a breeze. She listened carefully when he spoke, and when he walked past, she would nod respectfully, her eyes filled with something he couldn't quite name. Gratitude, perhaps, or trust. One afternoon, Ryan caught her studying a small flower growing near the camp's edge. She touched its petals gently and whispered something in her language. "What did you say?" he asked. She looked up and smiled. "On my world," she said slowly, "flower means hope." Ryan looked at her, and for the first time in months, he felt a real smile forming on his face. "Then maybe this one means the same," he said. Sirata nodded, carefully plucking the tiny blossom and holding it close to her chest. That evening, when the stars appeared, Ryan stood outside his tent watching the night sky. Sirata joined him silently. They didn't need words. The quiet between them felt warm, like a shared understanding that didn't require translation. The others still didn't fully trust her, but Ryan didn't care. He had seen the truth in her eyes. She was not an enemy. She was a survivor just like him. Two soldiers from different worlds, finding peace in a place built on war. As the wind brushed softly through the camp, Sirata looked up and said in her gentle, uncertain voice, "Human sky." "Beautiful. I won't remember," Ryan smiled. "Then remember this night," he said. "The night we stopped being enemies." For the first time she laughed, a sound so light and unexpected that it made him laugh too. It was a moment of peace in a world that rarely offered any, and though neither of them said it aloud, both knew something had begun to change, not just between them, but between two worlds that might someday learn to understand each other. Days turned into weeks and the camp began to change. The soldiers who had once feared Sirata now watched her with cautious respect. She had proven herself many times, fixing broken equipment, helping with supplies, and even warning them when storms were about to hit. Her sharp senses and calm presence made her an unexpected ally. Ryan noticed the difference too. He saw how she worked silently but efficiently, always aware of her surroundings. Sometimes when she finished her tasks, she would sit near the campfire, watching the flames with a distant expression. It was as if the fire reminded her of something she had lost. One evening, Ryan joined her there. The stars above them shone bright, and the wind carried the faint hum of generators in the distance. Sirata glanced at him but said nothing. For a long while, they simply sat in silence. Then she spoke softly. "You still think I am enemy?" Ryan shook his head slowly. "Not anymore." She seemed to relax at his answer. "Many humans still afraid," she said, choosing each word carefully. "They look at me and see weapon." "They don't know you," Ryan replied. "They only know the war." She nodded, her eyes reflecting the firelight. "War takes everything. My people fight because they must, not because they want." Ryan understood that feeling too well. He looked into the flames and said, "That's the same for us." There was a quiet connection between them then, a shared sadness. Two soldiers from opposite sides who never wanted the war that brought them together. The next morning, Ryan found Sirata near the training area. She was trying to lift a heavy supply box but struggling because of her still healing arm. Without a word, Ryan walked over to help. She smiled faintly. "Human strong," she said teasingly. "Maybe," Ryan said, grinning. "But you're tougher." She laughed softly, and the sound surprised him again. It was light and genuine, so rare in a place filled with soldiers and machinery. That laughter became something Ryan waited to hear. It was like a reminder that there was still beauty in a world broken by war. Over the following weeks, they began to communicate more easily. Her English improved, and Ryan even started learning some of her language. She would correct his pronunciation with a gentle smile, laughing when he got it wrong. When she said his name, Ryan, it sounded softer, almost musical. The soldiers began to notice their growing friendship. Some teased him about it. Others just shrugged and accepted it. "Captain's got himself a new alien friend," one of them joked. But Ryan didn't care. He had learned to trust her, and that trust mattered more than what anyone said. One night, while checking patrol routes, Ryan found Sirata standing near the edge of the camp, gazing up at the twin moons. Her posture was calm but sad. He walked up quietly. "You can't sleep?" he asked. She didn't turn around. "I listen," she said softly. "Wind here sounds like my home." Ryan stood beside her, the cool night air brushing past them. "Do you miss it?" "Yes," she whispered. "But it's gone now. My world, burned. My family." Her voice broke slightly, but she held herself firm. "No more home." Ryan felt something tighten in his chest. He wanted to say something comforting, but didn't know what could ease that kind of loss. So instead he just said, "Then maybe you can make a new one here." She turned to him, eyes shining faintly in the moonlight. "Home with humans?" she asked, almost uncertain. "Home is where you're safe," he replied gently. "It doesn't have to be where you're born." For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then she smiled, a soft, grateful smile that carried both warmth and sadness. "Maybe. Here's safe," she said quietly. From that night on, things changed between them. They shared more stories, simple ones about their worlds, about food, about what peace felt like before war. She told him about glowing seas on her planet that sang when the wind passed over them. He told her about the blue oceans of Earth and the smell of rain after a storm. When she listened, her eyes would soften. When she spoke, Ryan could almost imagine her world through her words. Beautiful, peaceful, and full of color. One afternoon, while everyone was busy preparing equipment, a soldier accidentally cut his hand badly. Blood dripped fast, and the medic was still far away. Sirata rushed forward, holding out her hands. "Let me," she said. She pressed her palm over the wound, and faint light shimmered through her skin. Within seconds, the bleeding stopped, leaving only a thin scar. The soldier stared in disbelief. "You healed me," he said, wide-eyed. Sirata smiled gently. "Small gift," she said. "I can heal little pain." Word spread quickly through the camp. The fear that had once surrounded her began to fade. People started greeting her when she walked by. Some even brought her small items, flowers, fruit, tools, like tokens of friendship. She accepted them with quiet gratitude. Ryan watched all of this with pride. She had gone from being a frightened prisoner to a trusted part of their group. And deep inside, he felt something he hadn't felt in a long time: hope. That night, as they sat near the fire again, Sirata looked at him thoughtfully. "Why you saved me?" she asked suddenly. Ryan thought for a moment. "Because when I looked at you that day, I didn't see an enemy," he said softly. "I saw someone who wanted to live." She nodded slowly. "You risk much," she said. "Your people could punish you." "Maybe," Ryan said with a small smile. "But some things are worth the risk." Sirata was silent for a long time after that. The firelight danced in her eyes, reflecting tiny stars of warmth. Finally, she said, "Then I protect you now." "My life for yours." Ryan looked at her, surprised. "You don't have to do that." But she only shook her head. You saved my life. I give it back if danger comes." He didn't argue. He just nodded, knowing her words came from the deepest part of her heart. As the night grew colder, they sat side by side in silence. The sky above them stretched endlessly, filled with stars neither of them had names for. In that quiet, Ryan realized something simple but powerful. This strange friendship had changed him. She had reminded him that compassion could exist even in the middle of war, and though he didn't say it aloud, he knew that as long as Sirata was there, the camp no longer felt like a place of war. It felt in some small way like home. The night was calm, but Ryan couldn't sleep. He sat inside his tent, staring at a small metal piece on his desk, a fragment from the alien ship where he had found Sirata. It was smooth, with strange lines carved into it, almost like language mixed with light. He wondered what it meant, and what secrets still surrounded the woman who now lived among them as one of their own. Outside, the wind whispered softly through the camp. Sirata was awake too, sitting near the edge of the campfire. She often stayed up late, watching the stars. There was a peaceful sadness in her face that Ryan couldn't ignore anymore. Finally, he walked over and sat beside her. "You're thinking again?" he said quietly. She smiled faintly. "Always thinking." "About home?" She nodded slowly. "Yes, and about what comes next." Ryan studied her expression. "You've been hiding something, haven't you?" he asked softly. "Something important." For a long time, she didn't answer. The fire crackled between them, and the night air grew colder. Finally, she reached into the small pouch hanging from her side and pulled out something wrapped in cloth. Carefully, she unfolded it, revealing a tiny crystal that glowed with a soft blue light. "This," she said, her voice low and full of emotion, "is the heart of my people." Ryan leaned closer. The crystal pulsed gently like it was alive. "What is it?" "It is memory," she said. "Every voice, every song, every dream from my world lives inside this. When the war came, my leaders sent me to protect it. I was to keep it safe, no matter what." Ryan stared at the crystal in awe. "You mean, this holds the history of your entire race?" She nodded, her eyes shining faintly in the firelight. "Yes. Our home was destroyed. But if this survives, then my people are not lost." He looked at her silently, realizing the weight she had been carrying all this time. "You could have told me earlier," he said gently. She looked away. "I was afraid. Humans would take it, study it, break it." Ryan couldn't deny that possibility. His superiors would have seen it as technology to exploit, not something sacred. "You're right," he admitted quietly. "They wouldn't understand what it means." Sirata's voice softened. "But you saw me. You listened. That is why I show you now." Ryan felt something deep inside shift. He wasn't just looking at an alien anymore. He was looking at the last guardian of an entire civilization. Before he could respond, an alarm suddenly blared across the camp. Both of them jumped to their feet. The soldiers ran out of their tents, weapons ready. Ryan grabbed his communicator. "What's going on?" a voice answered through the radio. "Command ship just contacted us, sir. They know about the alien. They're sending a transport to take her into custody." Ryan froze. He looked at Sirata. Her expression told him she already understood. "They'll take you," he said quietly. "They'll experiment on you." She looked down, her voice calm but sad. "I know." Ryan clenched his fists. "No, I won't let that happen." Sirata touched his arm gently. "You can't fight your own people." But Ryan shook his head. "You don't understand. I made a promise to protect everyone under my care, and that includes you." That night, while the others were busy preparing for the command ship's arrival, Ryan made his decision. He packed only what was necessary: food, a small blaster, and a navigation tracker. Then he turned to Sirata. "We have to go. Now." She hesitated. "If you go with me, your people will call you traitor." "I'd rather be a traitor to the wrong cause than a coward to the right one," he said firmly. She stared at him for a long time, then nodded. "Then we go together." Under the cover of darkness, they slipped past the camp perimeter. The guards barely noticed them. The desert stretched endlessly ahead, lit only by the twin moons. The wind was cold and sharp, but neither of them stopped. They walked for hours, guided by Ryan's tracker. By dawn, they reached an abandoned communication tower hidden in the hills. The structure was old but still had power. Sirata placed the glowing crystal on the ground, connecting it to a console with careful movements. "This will send signal," she said. "Maybe my people's still alive somewhere." Ryan helped her adjust the old machinery. The tower hummed softly, and a faint beam of blue light rose into the sky. "It's working," he said. Sirata looked up, her eyes filled with hope. "If they hear it, they will come." For a while they stood there in silence, watching the light reach toward the stars. It was peaceful, almost sacred. But that peace didn't last long. The distant sound of engines broke the silence. Ryan turned sharply. "They found us." A military aircraft appeared in the distance, approaching fast. Ryan's communicator crackled. "Captain Hale, this is command. You are ordered to surrender immediately and hand over the alien." Ryan switched it off. "We're out of time." Sirata stepped forward. "You saved me once, now I save you." She touched the console and whispered something in her language. The crystal glowed brighter, pulsing rapidly. The old tower began to shake as energy surged through it. "Go," she said. "It will hide your signal. They won't find you." Ryan grabbed her arm. "I'm not leaving without you." She looked into his eyes, her voice steady but full of emotion. "Ryan, if they catch me, they take everything. If I stay, you live." He wanted to argue, but the determination in her face stopped him. He understood. This was her choice. A bright flash filled the sky as the tower overloaded, sending a wave of blue light across the desert. The approaching aircraft turned away, blinded by the surge. When the light faded, Sirata and the tower were gone, vanished into silence. Ryan fell to his knees, the air still humming with leftover energy. The crystal was gone, but the warmth of her hand seemed to linger on his arm. He looked up at the sky, where the faint blue light still shimmered. "She did it," he whispered. "She saved us." Days later, the military never found any trace of her or the tower. Ryan told them she was lost during the storm. They believed him, but every night, when he looked at the stars, he could still see that faint blue glow, like a promise she had left behind. And in his heart he knew she was out there somewhere, still guarding the memories of her people, still keeping her vow. The desert was quiet again. The wind carried only dust and whispers across the endless land. Captain Ryan Hale stood alone on the dunes, staring at the empty horizon where the tower once stood. There was no sign of Sirata, no sign of the glowing crystal, no sign of the ship that had chased them. Everything was gone, except the faint memory of blue light still glowing softly in the morning sky. Ryan stayed there for hours. He didn't move, didn't speak. The silence around him felt heavy, but not hopeless. Somewhere inside, he believed she was still alive. Somehow, he knew her story wasn't over. When he finally returned to the camp days later, the soldiers looked at him with questions in their eyes. He told them what little he could, that the tower had exploded, that the alien was gone, that the mission had ended. No one pressed further. They could see the truth in his face, the kind of truth that words couldn't explain. Time passed. The war slowly faded. Treaties were made, and both sides began rebuilding what was left of their worlds. The fighting stopped, but the memories didn't. Ryan was promoted, but the title felt empty. Every time he looked at the stars, he remembered her voice, her laughter, and the way she had looked at him that night before disappearing into the light. Months later, he left the military. He moved to a quiet colony far from the central cities, a place where he could finally rest. Life there was simple. Gardens, windmills, and long evenings under open skies. But even in peace, he never forgot the promise she made. One night, while walking near the cliffs, he noticed something unusual. A faint blue light shimmered on the horizon, just above the sea. It was soft, steady, and strangely familiar. His heart raced as he climbed down the rocks, following the glow. The closer he got, the stronger the light became, until finally he saw it. There, half buried in the sand, was a small crystal, glowing gently like a heartbeat. He knelt down, hands trembling. It looked exactly like the one Sirata had shown him, the heart of her people. As he touched it, the crystal pulsed once, and a faint voice echoed in his mind. "Ryan." He froze. The voice was soft, distant, but unmistakable. "Sirata," he whispered. The crystal glowed brighter, and her voice continued, gentle like the wind. "I am far, but I remember. The signal reached my people. They live. We are safe. Ryan closed his eyes, a wave of relief washing over him. You made it, he said softly. You really made it. The voice grew quieter, almost like a dream. I keep my promise. You saved me. I saved you. Now our worlds can live together. He smiled through the tears he hadn't realized were falling. I never stopped believing, he whispered. The light flickered, then steadied again. Don't be sad, her voice said. When you look at the stars, I will be there. Always warm. Always near. Then the crystal faded, leaving only a faint shimmer like the last trace of starlight. Ryan held it close to his chest, feeling its gentle warmth against his heart. It wasn't just a message, it was a part of her. A reminder that she had not vanished completely. From that day on, Ryan kept the crystal with him wherever he went. He placed it on his desk when he worked, carried it in his jacket when he walked, and sometimes, late at night, he would hold it in his hand and talk to it quietly, as if she could still hear him. Years passed, and peace between humans and the alien survivor slowly grew. When Earth's new council met with the alien envoys for the first time, Ryan was invited as an advisor. He recognized them immediately. Their markings, their speech, their gentle way of moving. They were Sirata's people. After the meeting ended, one of them approached him, a tall figure with calm, shining eyes. You are the human called Ryan Hale, she said. Our records say you saved one of our kind long ago. Her name was Sirata. Ryan nodded, his throat tight. Yes, he said softly. She saved me too. The alien smiled gently and handed him a small silver disc. She left this message for you before she joined the stars. She wanted you to have it. Ryan took it carefully, his hands shaking. When he activated the disc, a soft blue image appeared before him. Sirata, just as he remembered her. Her voice filled the room, calm and warm. Ryan, she said with a small smile, if you are seeing this, then peace has come. You were right to believe in kindness. It is stronger than fear, stronger than war. My people live because of you, and I live in their hearts. Thank you, my human friend. The image faded, but her smile remained in his memory. For a long time, he stood silently, staring at the spot where her light had been. After that day, Ryan dedicated his life to helping both species learn from each other. He became known not as a soldier, but as a bridge, someone who understood both sides. His stories about Sirata inspired others to see beyond differences and seek peace instead of control. And every night, when he stood outside his small home under the same twin moons that once shone on them, he would look up and whisper quietly, Don't kill me, human. I'll warm your bed. He smiled every time he said it because now he understood what those words truly meant. They weren't about fear or surrender. They were about trust, about warmth, about the promise to protect each other. She hadn't asked for mercy. She had offered faith. Years later, when Ryan grew old and gray, he was still known for one thing, the glowing blue crystal he always carried. When he passed away peacefully in his sleep, the crystal beside him pulsed one last time, lighting the room with soft blue light, then faded gently like a sigh. Those who found it said it looked almost alive, as if it were saying goodbye. And that night, above the quiet world that both humans and aliens now shared, a new star appeared, small, blue, and steady. People said it was just light from a distant system, but those who knew the story whispered something different. They said it was Sirata, still watching, still guarding, still keeping her promise to the man who once saw her not as an enemy, but as a soul worth saving, and somewhere beyond the stars. Maybe she smiled again, whispering softly, Thank you, human, for giving me warmth.